Inside the 12 is back. Pete Souza, King McClure. We are here now to take to the football field. That's right. We're going to talk about the draft, Big 12 players getting ready for the draft, and maybe peek ahead at next season and talk a little spring ball too. We are now joined by Shehan Jeyarajah from CBS Sports. Hey, Shehan, by the way, this is like a family reunion. Shehan, folks at home, which King just discovered, he covered King when he was at the student newspaper at Baylor.
Yes.
Now King, here's King at ESPN, Shehan's at CBS. How about it, huh?
Hey, Shehan is killing it.
Killing it,
He's
so
absolutely I try to, but look at him. Look at the hair. Look at the suit. The suit color is phenomenal. It matches the skin tone. I love it.
Everybody else in the conference, I'm with you guys, though, okay? We'll let they're Baylor today. All right, Shehan, let's get started. Last week, around 200 Big 12 football players were there in Frisco, Texas, in front of 300 scouts for workouts, drafts, and evaluations. What have you heard coming out of this 4-day event?
Yeah, well, first of all, it was a huge event. So many players coming through, so many guys that obviously we've gotten to watch over the years. But, you know, it was a really good opportunity, I think, for some of the more under-the-radar guys to get some attention. One guy who I really thought stood out to me was Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt. He was a kid who transferred from New Mexico to Arizona to play running back last year. Didn't get a whole lot of burn at Arizona, but he tested really, really well. He looked very good in his drills. I think that he's somebody who has a chance to improve quite a bit. The other thing too, and I mean this kind of ties into that, I think that the amount of running back and wide receiver talent that there was in the Big 12 last year has the potential to have a really big year in the 2025 NFL draft. Obviously, they're kind of the known commodities. Some of them didn't perform at Big 12 Pro Day, but I think that also you start to look down the board. There are going to be, I think, more players who end up in that position than people think.
Okay, I know you mentioned Ja'Cory, but was there anyone else whose performance surprised you or stood out to you?
Well, it was kind of fun to see another Baylor Bear turned Utah Ute, Caleb Lohner, out there. Obviously a former Baylor basketball player, but he looked really fluid. Obviously, he only played 1 year of college football at Utah, but 4 catches, 4 touchdowns for him. He tested really well. He looked big. He looked strong. He moved really well during drills. I think that he's somebody who maybe has the chance to step up. Again, I go back to that running back position. I felt like Devin Neal was somebody who just looked really, really good out there. Even when you compare him to some of the other running backs that obviously were taking part in drills, he just, to me, he has the potential to be something pretty special when he heads to that next level. So those are 2 guys who I think that people are going to keep a close eye on.
Yeah, Caleb Lohner going to play football. It was like when Hulk Hogan turned heel. You know what I mean? Because then Caleb came back this year. We got to cover him playing basketball, and he was jacked. He had a mustache. It was a whole different look.
He couldn't move. You could tell he was no longer a basketball player.
He's a football guy, right? That's why he's looking forward to the draft. All right, this is all building up to the NFL draft, right? A month, we're going to be talking about the reality of all this. What prospects from the Big 12 have impressed you, Shehan, the most?
Well, there's some that are obvious, right? I mean, you think about the Tetroya McMillan, who I think has a really good chance to be the first wide receiver drafted. Unless you count Travis Hunter as a wide receiver, of course, he probably is going to be a top 3 to 5 pick in the draft. Shedeur Sanders, of course, somebody who I think has interviewed very well. But 2 guys who were teammates last year who I think might go higher than people expect. I look at those wide receivers from Iowa State, Jaden Higgins, Jalen Knoll. They were the engines of that Iowa State team back in 2024, and you've started to see them move up into the first round conversation, especially when you look at Jalen Knoll. He ran really well at the combine, running a 4.39. I think that he's somebody who has a chance potentially to go a lot higher than people may expect.
All right, Shehan, let's transition into the upcoming spring games, right? We have some that are coming up, right? Emphasis on some, as several programs are getting away from what we've seen as the traditional end of a spring scrimmage. What do you see as some of the pros and cons of that?
Well, I get the concerns about spring games, right? Nobody wants to create an opportunity for their own players to be scouted, especially with the post-spring transfer period coming up. But from my perspective, I think it's just getting away from the plot a little bit, canceling all these spring games. I mean, I'll tell you what, I have a 1-year-old at home, and last year we were able to take her to her first football game, and it was SMU spring game. And I think that that's so much more what these sort of events actually are. They're opportunities for people to come into the stadium, to sit in seats that they might not be able to afford on a regular basis, and just get to enjoy an atmosphere. So from my perspective, I really hate that so many of these games are being canceled. Now, at the same time, look, you think about how long the seasons are going on now. I know that Texas coach Steve Sarkisian talked about this after the year. They went 4 rounds deep into the playoff, of course. And so you've played so many games. I understand you don't want to put your guys in a position where they're going to get injured. You don't want to put guys in bad positions, obviously going through spring camp. But I do think that ultimately, I hope that we move back the other direction. I love the fact that Deion Sanders has come out and said, let's try to figure out, can we have something like inter-squad spring games? Can we have other opportunities for that? Because I think that as college football moves more and more towards money, they're kind of delivering less for fans.
Okay, yeah, so hang on that point, Shehan. Colorado, obviously a magnet for attention and hype. Coach Prime expressed the interest in doing the inter-squad scrimmage against Syracuse. Maybe Fran Brown said, we will come to Boulder. The two schools have petitioned for this to become a reality. Is this a possible reality, and are we anywhere even in a process that could lead to this?
We are in the middle of a process. So what we've heard is that Colorado and Syracuse have both petitioned the NCAA for a waiver to let this happen. Right now, this is against NCAA rules, but the committee that could decide this essentially meets on April 10th. They're targeting April 19th for the spring game. So there is a possibility that it could be decided that quick. The one thing that I'd worry about is the strict timeline of it, right? We started having this conversation essentially a month before the game might happen, and it's just such a tight time frame to try to get something like that approved. Now, Fran Brown said, we are ready. We've got the means in place, the protocols in place. We can get to Boulder, take part in multiple days of practice, and have a spring game. So they're ready whenever they get the call. I just worry that the NCAA is going to drag their feet, and we won't necessarily get it resolved in time.
100%. And real quick before you leave, right? We've got a long time before this happens. But who wins the 2025 Big 12 title?
Well, that's the million-dollar question. We don't even have rosters finalized at this point. There's 2 or 3 teams that I'm going to name. So I think that BYU is being super underrated heading into the year. They were, of course, an 11-2 team last year. I don't think that people understand, 1, how much they have coming back, and 2, how close they were to actually being in the college football playoff last year. Another team that I'll bring up, I actually think the Baylor Bears are in a great position. They were on a 6-game winning streak to end Big 12 play, and they have a really light schedule to end the year. So if they're able to handle their early season schedule, I think that they have a really good chance to do it. But another team to keep just a really close eye on is Texas Tech. They've invested so much into their roster over the offseason, the number 3 transfer class in the entire country. They're coming for it this year, and it'll be a great finish and a great race to the finish.
Did you know he was going to be this good when he was covering you at Baylor?
Listen, he's phenomenal. I love it.
Shehan Jeyarajah, thank you so much, man. We appreciate your time.